Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming back to my YouTube channel. This is Brent. We're back in my living room. And this video is a special video. I tend to say that about all of them as I make them, but this one I'm particularly looking forward to holding. As this video is going to contain what I see as, gotta remember the camera is, there we are. As one of the, as a teaching that I've been wanting to get around to for a long time. So I have about 15 or so videos in my account, and all of them so far have been directed at different problems, kind of more particular problems that need attention, such as what's the purpose of my life, what to do about stress, how to stay motivated, how to stay productive. And they're kind of videos that really directly apply to very particular issues. But what I found about all of them is that they all tend to kind of circle sort of like one main issue that I wanted to get to, one main problem, essentially, which I consider to be a misplacement of one's identity. So therefore, the title of this video, I haven't decided quite yet, but it'll be the reestablishing of identity, or to reestablish the identity. And the idea is, the central idea here is that if we have an incorrect idea about who or what we are, then we're basically on a path that's bound for trouble, bound for obstacles, bound for unwellness in general. But if we take a moment to really consider who or what we really are, in the realest and truest and deepest sense that we can possibly discover, then it allows us clarity, and it allows us to operate more intelligently. And it also allows us to operate in such a way that it's harmonious with the universe, and we get to operate so that the wind is at our back, so that the universe works with us, so that we can experience more great coincidences and just more ease in life. So it's a little bit easier to start by talking about what we're not, which is essentially everything that we hold in our mind about who we think we are or what we think we are. And so the governing principle is that whatever you consider yourself to be, it's something that you can hold in your mind as an object. So for example, if I say that I'm Brent, then there's a split in the sense that the subject, I, say that I am Brent, which is the object. And if there is such a split like that, then I would necessarily be the subject. I am I. I'm that which says so. I'm that which knows. I'm that which is able to, to perform this sentence. I am Brent. So Brent can't really be what I am. Brent is an object. And the same would apply for you and your name. And it would apply to certainly any sort of information that we hold in our heads about ourselves. So that would be your nationality, where you're from, gender, and so forth. And what it also includes is any sort of sense of history or any sort of story. So typically somebody might say, I am a survivor of X, Y, and Z. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm an abuse survivor. I've been through events 1, 2, and 3. You can fill in the blanks. I've come from events D, E, and F, and so forth. And all of that is true in the sense that if you were to look in the records, that's there. but it's also untrue in the sense that it has no reality in the now. And as a general rule of spirituality, if it's not real in the now, then its reality is very, very flimsy, ephemeral. It's like a tissue paper, very, very kind of almost insubstantial, and one could argue entirely insubstantial. And it's certainly not who you are. It's an aspect of your identity, which is to say it's an aspect of what you think about yourself, but it's not. But again, it's an object. It's something that you can say and see and kind of describe, which is not the subject. So then we move on away from information and details and data, and we look at, say, the body. So you could say that I am this, I am the body. And that's not, it doesn't seem to be entirely true either, because the same principle still applies in that if I say I am this body, there's again that split. It's, it is that which knows that there's a body. It's that which can operate the body. There is this which, operates through the body, but I am not the body. They're still distinct. There's still that split that we're talking about. If I lost my arm, which is a part of my body, I would still very much be myself. If I were split in half, supposing I could somehow be made to survive, I would still be myself. So there's the body, the family, the things that I have. Certainly not who I am. They're just things that I have. Anything that has a physical existence, of course, is subject to birth and death. It will come into existence and will come out of existence. And yet, there is this amness. There is this sense of knowing. There's this sense of presence. There is that which knows, and it operates through physicality, but it's not physicality. And this is not really, it's something that can be said, but something that has to be discovered on an individual basis, which is that the sense of knowing, the sense of awareness, and that which is able to know and that which is able to be aware is independent of the physical realm. Very importantly, it's not, it moves through physicality, but it's not bound by physicality. It doesn't begin and end with physicality. Physicality is an aspect of that awareness. It's an extension of the awareness, but it's not the awareness itself. And the awareness is still the primary, and the physicality is still the secondary. And this is kind of a point of major contention, because there's this other camp of thought, which is that once the body dies, consciousness dies, and there's nothing. And from that perspective, it was lights off before and it's lights off after, and consciousness is just confined, absolutely bound and confined by the physical vessel, and that there's absolutely nothing. There's no consciousness outside of it. There's nothing outside of it. Which, if you look into that perspective enough, and if you really, really just take some time to think, is there consciousness outside of physicality, or is consciousness really locked and bound into physicality? Upon further inspection, I find in myself that to imagine that consciousness is just bound in physicality, that is kind of the weird kind of fantasy. That's the weird science fiction. To say that it's just to limit reality in such a way, just it doesn't hold. It's like it's really, in a sense, it's like we're not even giving existence a whole lot of credit to say that, this is it and there's nothing else. But again, this is a sort of thing that I say is so, and you cannot accept as a truth for yourself. It's not something that you can just take and believe. That's the thing. You have to really go in there yourself and really investigate, really, really look inside, as deep inside your own psyche and your own self as deep as you can go, and see what's there. And so I'm reporting what I have found. So where this comes into play in terms of working with our physical lives is that if we believe that if we mistake our identity for something that is bound by birth and death, if we, in other words, mistake the subject for the object and say that the object is what I am, then you're bound for trouble. You can see quite plainly any object, if it's physical, mental, emotional, any realm that it sort of exists in, it has an entry point and an exit point in existence. And if you think that's what you are, then there's this subtle fear of death, of annihilation, that will ride with you the whole way through, and it'll never go. And your whole castle of your life is built on this foundation of, I'm going to be annihilated out of existence, which of course is scary. And so then the whole mission of life becomes, how can I make things secure enough that I can feel safe? And there's this sort of, we played this game of hide and seek where we really, really, really attempt to convince ourselves that we're never going to die. Or we try to convince ourselves that there's a way to offset death, or that there's a way that perhaps if I can delay death long enough, then something can happen where, after that point, death will be okay, or death can be permanently delayed, or I don't have to die, or at least I can get some sort of a prize that, I get it, and then, the whole of life is justified, and then I can die with this sense of okayness. And then life becomes about that. And then our day by day has this fear about it, like, I gotta, and you're set up, you're set up so that it's like you start in the negatives and you're trying to go to zero. You're trying to claw your way toward a sense of okayness, you see. And then when you set up your life so that you're trying to move towards okayness, that's when you get obstacles. That's when you get setbacks. That's when you get like, oh, shit after shit after shit, nightmare after nightmare after nightmare. And it becomes like, the story of your life is nightmare, and then like, it's like over for a second, and then there's the next nightmare that, it's okay. And which of course is hellish. I'm pretty sure that when I say it like this, it's pretty obvious that this method of life doesn't work. And perhaps it may come as some reassurance to realize that this way of life and this way of operating life is not possible to sustain forever. And eventually, all of us stop using this as a strategy. But it also means that something that we need to deliberately and decisively, is change our strategy for how we go about life. in the absolute most foundational and most fundamental sense, changing our identity about how we live our lives. It's a renegade hair there. Get back in there. There we go. And the way we do that is by looking inside. There's a positive and a negative approach, and the problem. So, like, the positive approach would be to say to look inside for that sense of invulnerability. But that can be useful as a tool, but it's not quite as useful, I think, as focusing on looking at where you have started gripping on something as the provider of your identity. I actually quite recommend that you start there. Where in your life are you holding on something to give you meaning? To ask the question slightly differently, what are you hoping will happen that when it happens, everything will be okay? That would be a big clue for you right there. What's the big event, the big one, the thing? Is it the lottery winning? Is it when your business starts working? Is it when you get the house? Is it when you start a family? Is it when you find the lover or the wife or the husband? What is it that you are waiting for that when it happens, you just know that everything's going to be okay? And realize that there's nothing that can happen that will be that revolutionary. It's a very big insight that's been very slow to occur to me personally. It's a trap that I fall into myself a lot, which is thinking that, if it's like a personal, if something really amazing happens, it's like, this is the event that changes everything. Or even speaking politically, every time Trump does something, every time he comes out with like a new thing, a new low, I don't know if it's just me, but I always think this is it. This is finally it, when like everybody, he's going to be impeached, and there's going to be the revolution, and everything's going to be amazing from here on out. And it never turns out to be the thing. It's just always like this thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. Which means that I have been waiting for the one event that will change everything. Instead, look at how things are now. And look at both things in the physical level as they are now, and look inside for how you feel now, including the anger, the sadness, the dissatisfaction, the fear, the rage, whatever it is. And look at all that, and look at, instead of imagining what needs to happen in order for everything to be okay, look at everything as it is now and see if you can assign okayness to everything as it is right now. Everything, except nothing, everything. And look at it and go, okay. And you can try a really hardcore Zen type phrase. This is it. This is it. Really, really profound. You can say it in many ways. This is it. This is it. This is it. There's nothing else besides this. Literally, I'm not speaking esoterically or metaphorically. I really, really mean it. Look around you. There's nothing else besides this. This is it. This And if I'm saying it, if you're really feeling it, you may feel in yourself a resistance come up, perhaps quite strongly. This no, 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 and that's, that was what was in you, waiting for something else. Like that conviction that something else will finally just get you that sense of wholeness. But instead you go, this is it. Yes, yes to this, yes. If it's here, if it's in my outer or inner reality, which is to say, if it's in reality, which is to say, if it's real, yes. So now it's time to draw this back to the original subject of identity. I'm not totally sure if I can. Okay, so realizing that anything that you believe that you are is subject to birth and death. Literally everything that you can think of, anything that you could hold in your attention is an object, and is therefore just an object, and is therefore not the subject. So therefore, what is the subject? That becomes really, really vital question, a very, very rich question. It's the type of question that if you don't necessarily go into head stuff trying to figure it out on the mental level, trying to work it out, trying to come up with answers, not going about it that way, but just keeping it as a question that you just hold very lightly, very, very lightly. You just hold it there. What is the subject? And the effect of doing this is that it wakes you up. It wakes you up out of hypnosis. The hypnosis is to believe that I am the object, that the subject is the object. Do you see? The hypnosis is what I am. All of this needs to be resolved. All of this is not okay, and I need more time in order to get to that okayness. That's the hypnosis. The sense of I'm not okay. That's a hypnosis. Something's wrong. That's hypnosis. Something needs to be fixed. Something needs to be done. I'm not complete yet. I need to get something. I need to get something. I need to get. Hypnosis. It's just hypnosis. It's a hypnosis that we all have, and we reinforce it with each other. But it's just a thing. It's just a software that we run on. And when you hold in your mind, who am I? What is this subject? A really nice way of putting it also is, where does my attention come from? What is this wherewithal to be aware? And you just, it's like taking the light and shining it back on itself. And then the hypnosis falls away. And the misplaced sense of identity falls away. And the whole sense of yourself that you've been denying, as if, I don't like, hopefully I'll never need to experience this or feel this if I can just get something, then I'll never need to go through this. That which you've been avoiding is allowed to come in. It's allowed to reintegrate with all of who you, with the whole of you. And with that sense of conflict gone, and with that allowing of all of, like, every aspect of you, every part of your experience to reintegrate into the whole, there's no more conflict. And when there's no more conflict, there's that nice silence that I like to sometimes talk about. There's silence and quiet. And it's not to say that you become inactive. It's not to say that you do nothing. It's not to say that you give up on your will to live. It's not like that. That's kind of part of the hypnosis, that we feel like we need to stay in a state of dissatisfaction in order to do something. That's just a lie. It's dissatisfaction is actually not required for anything. Worry, nervousness, anxiety, they do not serve us. And it's funny because, like, you know, like I say this, and the parent in us kind of knows that to be true, or the inner adult rather. But there's still a part of us that actually believes that the anxiety, the dissatisfaction serves us. And I would really invite you to really look into that for yourself and see if that's actually true. As a final note, the idea is not to finally come to an understanding of what I am or who you are. Because anything that comes into your mind that would be an answer to the question, who am I? That would just be another object. Much better to really focus on looking at all the ways where you've misplaced your identity. Look at all the objects that you've ascribed your own sense of subject to. And just allow that to drop away. And allow the peace to emerge, and let the insights to come. Let the insights come in, and just see what happens. Thank you very much. Hope you have a great day.